Good morning, Allison.
Good morning, Susan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling great. My weekend was lovely, working on some client projects and taking the dog for a walk, and the weather is unbelievably warm here. We're gonna have a week, if you can believe it, of 65 and maybe 70 degrees this
Oh my
week.
goodness. In
It's
February.
in February. It
Yeah.
is such a
Actually,
non-winter event for us. I mean, we're gonna potentially break a record from the, I think, 1800s of being this warm in February. So yeah,
we had a couple days that were skirting 60 last week. It just felt weird because it's still,
exactly.
it just feels weird. Now we get snow every night, just a little dusting. And of course, yesterday, 2 weekends I've gone birding. Yesterday, I went out with a friend, owling, looking for short-eared owls, and it was
Aw.
so insanely cold and windy. It was awful, except for the fact that I saw my first short-eared owl. But the weekend before, we went down to this place in Missouri that's been on my list for a very long time, 8 hours away, so not close. But this amazing birding reserve, and we get there in the morning, and I'm wearing my winter coat, my hat, my mittens, scarf, all the things. And by 2 o'clock, I was wearing literally just a long sleeve shirt and I was hot.
Wow.
It
Wow.
was
So
crazy.
different. Yeah.
So, yeah. But now we're back to school. But the place was amazing. And I took a lot of photos, a lot of photos. It was all these like hundreds of thousands of snow geese stopped
Wow.
there. So
Wow.
yeah, it was really, really cool. And now I want to go back in December because that's when all the bald eagles come through.
Okay.
And we did see some, but we'll need to go back. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, it was crazy. It was a fun couple weekends in a row for me. Of course, that means I have to work twice as hard during the week, but that's okay. That's what I'm a work hard, play hard person for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's been the weather scene has been, the up in the hills where the ski resorts are, they've been panicking, and yeah, it's been this whole thing. But they have gotten like 10 to 20 inches in the last week. So
Yeah. Well,
hopefully
there you
that,
go.
yeah. But we also worry about our water pack just like everybody else. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
we
we get the moisture. I was out watering my trees because, even in the winter they need water. So got to keep house maintenance going,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So many things.
Yeah.
If you, uh, uh, if you plan right, you can mitigate some of these things, but sometimes you can't. And one of the things that comes to mind is when you're out taking photos like that is w- when you get back, you've got to deal with all those
Mhm.
photos. How many photos do you think you
Yep.
took in those 2 weekends?
Well, yesterday, not that
1,000?
many.
Oh,
Yesterday, not that many because it was so frigidly cold that we didn't want to get out of the car. So we saw we saw like
you
a
saw the birds?
dozen.
You just sat in your car and you were taking.
Well, as soon as you open your car door, they fly off.
Oh,
So, or for this weekend, for the
okay.
owls,
Yeah.
and we saw a ton of northern harriers flying above. So I had quite a few of those. But for the owls, you don't open your car. You can roll down your window, but you can't. As soon as you open the door, they'll fly. Now, the weekend before, I know exactly how many photos I took because I
Yeah.
already have, downloaded them and gone through them. And there were a lot. One, I love bald eagles, and we saw a bunch of other cool things. But then the snow geese, when you see like 100,000 plus snow geese, and they're all rafting on the water, and then they all of a sudden just take off,
Yeah.
you go burst mode. So I had over 2,000 photos.
Okay.
I'm down to about 50 because in this particular case, they literally all look the same. It's a gazillion birds like doing
Yep.
this and flying
Yep.
off, and they're not going to look any different. Like
Right.
you could go through if you wanted and compare, they're all going to look exactly the same. So this was actually an easy one. But sometimes it's a lot harder. Like my photos from the vacation to the Southwest behind me in the
Yeah.
Grand Canyon and others, that's a lot harder to cull. And I actually was hoping this weekend to start putting that together. I've essentially figured out what's going in the book, so I was hoping to start that this weekend. I didn't quite get there, and that's okay because now today we're going to talk to a photo book expert so I can get some tips and maybe make that process a little bit different. Maybe I'll learn something that I have not known before, that will change the way I do my book this time.
Well, I'm excited to bring on our guest because I have worked with her in the past on a book, and she gave me some really great advice and enlightened me in many areas, and I thought she would be an excellent guest on our podcast. So I want to welcome Isabelle Dervaux. Come on out, Isabelle. And you're muted, unmuted. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, all the
Hi.
basic things we forget. Okay, so it's good.
Welcome.
Thanks, Susan and Alison, to welcome me. I'm happy to be here. Yes, I worked with Susan on this Italy book, and it was kind of like this big thing you really, really wanted to do. It was super important. And Alison, we're going to talk about you. I mean, you did it from 2,000 photos to 50 photos.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like you have a method. So I think what
do
we're going
have
to
a
talk
method.
about is how to have a method or um, some structure to tame this chaos of sometimes what we perceive we have, right?
So I'm gonna hold that thought, and why don't you introduce yourself for our audience that may not know you? Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're located, your business is located.
Of course. All right. So I'm Isabelle Dervaux. So you could hear after listening to me for 5 seconds that I have a French accent. I was born in France, on very close to the Belgian border, so between Paris and Brussels. And I live there. I have 4 siblings, 5 included. So my mom took a lot of photos, but I never really thought about it or anything. I was really into art and I studied art. And then I came to the States and I got married here. So I live between New York City and San Francisco. And then we came back from San Francisco. I had lots and lots of boxes. So my job was I was a freelance illustrator and I work for publishing, advertising, and magazines. So actually, I wanted to show a book because we're going to talk about books also. So this is a children's book. It was poetry book by this woman called Carla Kushkin, and it's really like nice little vignette, little poems, and it was a nice little book that I did. When I came back to New York in 2008, then big crash. It was like, oh my God, the world is falling apart. And I was getting much less work editorially. And I turned 50 and I said, oh, I want to do something else with my life. Then I figured all these books, I've moved them twice, and I started to purge. And photos was one of the things, right? So I decided to like look at my life and I'm like, actually, I feel really depressed, but I had a good life, right? For many things. And I'm like, and then my cousin turned 50 also that year. And I did a photo, like a little slideshow for her. And then I asked many different people to send me pictures. And then I realized, well, they don't know what a scanner is. They scan something and they send me a PDF, or they send me a scan, but it's all dusty. I'm like, oh, maybe I could help, because I realized how great this was to do this project and how everybody felt so happy to participate and then to see the celebration of someone. So I said, maybe I have something there, because I always thought maybe I could be a good picture editor in a magazine, but all those people were getting laid off. So there's no way I could do that. I always liked when you see somebody that had died and you see everything, all the pictures that made like as a visual biography. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for people. And then I ended up, of course, you Google like photo organizing. Like I organize my photos myself because my husband we took a a trip, and then on the plane, the computer got cracked. I'm like, oh my God, I need to copy his photos, right? So I kind of realized this was the beginning of how, like, I mean, digital photography was people taking a lot of pictures already. But after that, I got an iPhone, and I realized everybody else have photos, and the iPhone's getting full, and then iPhoto turned into photos, and then that's where I start working with people.
Nice.
So I live in New York City now, and let's see, I work a lot of it on Zoom, like what we do now, and people share their screen with me, and we look at the Apple photo collection. I decided that it was better for me to just concentrate on Apple photo, because this is what I use. This is what I use all the time. So I have developed a technique and a process to look at all your life on your phone, and that's what I love to teach. But I also love to have physical photos and work with people. I like to work together with people. And then we come up with a plan, and then we organize their photos, and then somebody will scan them. And then we work with the photos, and then we do something together with them.
Nice. I love that.
Yes.
I love origin stories, I guess is what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you never know what circuitous route someone has taken to get to where they are now, right? It's all this little bits of knowledge that you've developed, and then you're like, oh my gosh, now I can help other people. So that's awesome.
So everybody has, as a photo manager, we have some strengths, right, that we could use into work with people.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm an artist, and I see pictures that way. That's kind of my lens.
Yeah, you and I don't know each other very well, but when I think of you and the presentations I've seen from you, the one thing that's always impressed me is your ability to take all the mess and distill it down into that small part. So, you were impressed with my ability to take those thousands of photos down to 50, but that was very easy. My photos from this last trip that I took over Christmas time, much harder, because I look at them and I see different things in each photo, right? And I have to decide, what do I want to keep? What do I want to highlight? And that part's harder for me. Birds I've got down. Those I can cull super easily. There's only so many photos I need of a flying northern harrier, even though I saw like 15 of them yesterday. I don't need all of those. But I've always thought that's one of your big strengths, is being able to see that. What should we keep?
Almost like looking for a story, right?
Yeah.
Right. But also, I've got to say, I was a teacher, and also when you're an artist, you have to meet people and you show their work. You show your work. So you have a portfolio, and a portfolio is not this big; it's this big. And it was always your 12 best, because if you have one piece of art that's not great, is going to bring everything down. Right. So this was drilling me, and I was drilling this to my students: do not show too much, just show your best.
Yeah.
And then you want to make things that works together as a unit. So let's talk about it.
So let's get into it. Why don't we just start with like the I guess the simpler question of why do we make books? Like, what is the importance of making an actual book? What do we hope to get out of it?
So a book is an object, which is very different to look at everything on a screen, right? So you go one step further, and then it's something where you have to put every decision has to be thought about, and then you could hold it in your hand, and then you could give this as a gift, right? So a book just has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you have to make this work. So I guess it's all about choices, right?
And it's limited, right? You can
you have a structure and you have constraints.
Yes.
You have to work with the constraints, because the camera roll, it's just endless, right? So you have to make decision and feel good about them, because one thing is, people, they put it off until the next, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next year. But because we have to realize it is hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you are committing to something. But everybody that has made a book, they never regret it. They're just always happy that they've done it, right?
So where do you get started do you get started in the decision of how many photos are going to go in the book, or do you get started with what kind of book you want, like the size? I know Allison and I have, discussed our favorite layouts and sizes. What do you tell people when they're trying to
I
do?
go directly in, what do you want? What do you want to express through the book, right? What do you want to see? All the little details, how many pages, that's after, right?
Okay.
I was just talking to someone at just before this we met, and she wants to do a photo book for her daughter. And I'm like, what do you want to say? Because if you just get bogged down in the little details, it's just like you have a million different ways of doing a book. And then I say, well, what I would love to see is I'd like to see how your living room looks like. So I could say, okay, she's going to look this type of book or this type of book, because the look of the book is very important, right? So it has to be a book that that matches your aesthetic. But the question I have is for her was, what do you want to do, right? And then what do you want to express? So in digging a little deeper, it's really about the relationship she has with her daughter. And then I'm really excited. I hope we're going to work together. Like, it was like this, you have to see what excites them and
What's their why?
yes. So starting with words, usually when I work with someone, I was like, let's just write down what you want, and then everything will come later, right? And after that, we'll see, what do you have? And then let's pull out the photos that's going to express what you are telling me. And then, of course, we could change, we could evolve, but you could do a book with very few photos or a book with a lot of photos. And then you're going to structure, so you can make chapters. But I like to see like a photo collection. You can have, maybe you could divide and take the best 10%, or actually when I say the best, I say the right photos that's going to work together. And then from that 10%, maybe you could do 20 photos after that, and another 3, and then just one that maybe will be the cover. So usually before starting a book, I say, let's do slideshow first. And we really need to learn every photos that we have that's going to go on the book on a slideshow form, right?
Oh, that's an interesting approach. Yeah.
And I say, because I work in Apple Photos, if you change your photo, you edit your photos, and then you move it to the book. You don't want to edit the photo in the book. So if you have a great slideshow that works, that's balanced, that makes you happy, that's not too long, then we take that and we make into a book, right? Because then you used to know every single photos, and when you do the book, you just put the books in the little squares, right?
Yep.
And then you finish your book. So you want to be really intimately in touch with every photo at the beginning. You need to really know them really well. Then the book, it's easy to do. Right.
But to back up to one of the very first things he said is she started with, I want to do a book for my daughter. So it sounds like your first step is to figure out, what is the theme? Because a book for your daughter could be, it could be anything. It could be,
For 16 years.
Yeah, I want to document from birth to however old she is, or it could be, our vacations and family life together, or it could be her school stuff or sport. Like, it could be a million different things.
Absolutely.
So what I heard you say is your first step is to figure out what is going to be that theme of the book, because just a book about your daughter isn't really a theme. There's not a story there exactly. There's no path. It's just sort of like all over the place. And
so you can have a big collection, and then you can have 5 different ways of making a book, right? So you want to narrow down into one area or another, and it will be still great books, but they will be slightly different. So another question that I ask is, who do you do the book for, right? Some people, they travel, they want to do the book for them, but sometimes people travel and they want to say, they want to show that book to all of their friends, right?
Yep.
And that would be different. So the more you know the person, the more photos you can have, and the less you know the people, you want to be less photo, because you don't want to bore them to death, right? So you want to make a book. It's going to be different to see if the people in the book have lived that experience or not.
Right.
So,
I remember you asking me that, like, who's the book for? And I totally went, it's me. I want to take these, 1,000, whatever, 3,000 photos I took while I was on my Italy, tour and, cull it down to a book. But, we couldn't decide on a number. I think you kept wanting to get me down to like 100, 125. And I know I'm over that, but
so if it's for you, you decide, right? If
exactly.
really the
That's
book
what
needs to make you happy.
that's
Right.
that's what you kept saying, and I was like, okay, good. I got permission to pile in more photos into the book.
You can do both though, because I've done a lot of graduation slideshows, right?
Mhm.
And the people that I work with have a tendency to throw in everything. And I always have to ask that question right at the beginning, which is this going to be, it's a slightly different question, but it's similar. Is this going to be something that's sort of playing in the background while people are milling around at a party? Or is it going to be something where you're all sitting down watching
Yes.
it
Yeah.
together?
It's
Or
the center
is
of
this
attention.
yeah, or is this just for you? And she's like, well, all of them. I said, well, it kind of can't be all of them because you cannot sit down. I mean, you've given me enough stuff here for this slideshow is going to be like an hour long. And
Yeah.
literally nobody's going to want to watch that except for you. So what we ended up doing was making the long hour long one that she really wanted, but she really wanted it for herself and to give to her daughter. And then we took a subset and created an 8-minute slideshow,
Oh,
which
exactly right.
Exactly.
yeah, which is
Yes.
what people were going to watch. And what she ended up doing was she had a graduation party. So she ended up having the longer one just sort of playing on a TV in the back of the room. But then everybody sat down and she played the shorter one. So she felt like she got the best.
Yeah.
Of
She got
all
the
of
best
it.
of both
Yeah.
worlds.
And a
That's
book
a great
that's
way to
harder.
handle this.
Yeah, and a book is harder because, if you have 3,000 photos, I mean, that book is going to be like this big.
Yeah, there's no way.
Either the photo and it's going to be, or the photos are going to be this big, and then you're not even really going to look at them. So I think a book is actually harder and forces you to really think about what do I want in there, because a slideshow can be infinite. You can make it as big as you want, but the book you are actually constrained by printers and sizes and layouts and all of those kinds of things.
Right. So you can also do book 1, book 2, book 3,
Yeah.
book 4, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a series, which people like to have, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen series for things like A Year in the Life, right? So people that do, babies year 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of series. I did have one person who wanted to do, she went to Antarctica. So she had some amazing photos and initially wanted to use them all and thought, well, maybe we could do a book 1 and a book 2. And then as we got into it, she realized pretty quickly when she was looking at some of the layouts that, and this pains me to say it, but she had all these photos of penguins, which were beautiful, but they do all look kind of the same. And so we actually did a few mock-up pages, and she realized, okay, I don't need 10 pages of
Penguins.
penguins. Not even I need 10 pages of penguins, 2 maybe, but not 10. But it's hard because you're attached to those photos.
Yeah, we're very attached to your recent photos. So if you just travel and you went around the world, of course, every photo you want to put everything because you were just there, right? But 30 years later, you might drop some of them, right? The same
Right.
way
Some of those sunsets, you only need one.
yes,
Yeah.
or you are in the sunset,
Fireworks, sunsets.
Yeah.
of course, right. So the same way when you do something across like 30 years, 50 years, 80 years, you're going to take 1 or 2 photos each, and then you're more detached. So, but if you want to do a book with just your travel and make a 100-page books, then you can do it as long as you have structure inside.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I've chosen my photos. Is there, something else that you share with your clients during the process to help them?
So I think we didn't really talk about this, but selecting the photos, because some people do it at the same way, and that's where they get into trouble. So the number that people say, it's 80% that people start their books, but they never finish. And I think it's 80% or 82% of people, they do not finish the book. They go online, they start the book, but they don't finish it. And usually is because they do not separate the process of selecting the photos and designing the photos. So it's like two different things that we want to do. And so
well, let's talk about the selecting part first, because there's a lot more there. Like how you guys able to choose,
right? The designing is not a problem. The selecting is a big thing.
So how do you help people decide which photos they want to use?
So that's what sometimes I like to take constraints. So I would say, let's pick a number, because then we could go and you have a pyramid. So all your photos, and then there you're going to delete the one that obviously technically are wrong. Then you have your, I would say, the good photo, the photo you like, the photos that are communicating something. And then there's another layer, I would say your best photo. No, your even better photo, and then your best photo. So you always go like you have your pyramid. So in Apple Photos, you can make multiple albums and then have your first album that will be the slideshow. And then you look at them together and like, I have too many penguins. I'll remove my penguins, right? And then you go to the next one, and that will be for the book. So let's say you would take 120 to 300. And then I will have also say, well, these are really the best that I must have. Like maybe a nice portrait of a family, a group photo with everybody. The landscapes that are absolutely great, like I'm always looking for certain photos. So I will tell people, I'm looking for this, and this, and this. But for a book, you really want to have photos that are going to print well. And most people don't realize that this photo is really dark because you're looking at your computer and then you have the light from behind and that photo looks okay. But on a book, it will print darker. So there's a little trick I tell people is you could lower the brightness of your screen, and then you're going to realize that this is the way it's going to print. And then you say, oh, maybe I shouldn't take this picture, or I should brighten the photo or make it lighter. That's easy to do in Apple Photos. So you want to be careful that each image that you put is going to look nice on your on the book. So one thing I make people do before is to look at all the photos you've selected and look at them on a slideshow, like for 2 seconds. And then when you start to get bored, I'm like, oh, I have too many penguins. I have too many.
It never really be too many penguins. Just
I have too many of the. And then because you already know the photos, you're gonna see the backgrounds, right? You're gonna see, oh my God, there's a tourist with a yellow shirt or red shirt, because that one pops out. Like, I don't want this one. Or somebody's doing something funny in the background. And then you say, we remove this one, this one, this one. Right.
Yeah. So your suggestion of doing a slideshow is perfect because exactly to your point, that when you're looking at it in on your phone is too small. And so if you have a computer and you can play your Apple Photos library and select that album, then everything is much larger, as you say, and you get a completely different view and consideration when you're looking at those photos. Exactly. Yeah. You see the detail, like you said,
without music, because the music adds some excitement and drama. And if you don't do music, then you're going to remove photos that they need to get dropped.
Yeah. That's yep. Yeah. No music.
There's two great tips there, because I hadn't thought of that. I mean, I work with certain printers, so I know how I just don't even think about it. I know how photos are going to print. But if you're not used to doing that, the dimming your screen just a little bit is brilliant, because normally the photos will print a little bit darker.
Yeah.
So that is so smart. That's not something I've ever heard anyone say before. I love that.
Especially if you print with matte paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, the matte finish.
That would be a little darker, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not shiny.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. So smart. And you're right, because you're right also about when you look at it on a big screen, that's when you're going to notice the guy in the corner with the red shirt.
Yeah.
And you can always crop. Like if it's still your favorite photo, you can crop out the guy with the red shirt. There's other things. But if you are like me and have 3 other similar photos and one of them does not have a guy in a red shirt,
Yes,
Yeah,
because
choose that one.
usually people take pictures, you travel, take a picture, and things are moving, but you cannot control this. But the
Yes, the
people in the
background.
picture, they
Yep.
kind of stay the same, right? So that brings me to something else. Of course, I forgot.
That's okay.
Let's see. It will come back to me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
So I like the review on a big screen through a slideshow of your favorites. And then if you need to cull it down further from there, you can. Do you remember when we were talking about my Italy trip and you asked me to take a piece of paper out and draw, what I thought my trip was like? And so I drew the Italy, the country and then the places that I was going to. And you asked me to kind of visualize, my trip in a way that how did I wanna lay out the book? I kinda remember you guiding me that way.
Right. Okay. So, but in the meantime, I remember what I.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So when you look at the slideshow, and then Alison, you said yes, you could crop. So then I look at everything as how can I make this image better? Because usually people take images and they do not look at the
Mm.
sides. So I always crop, and I do this for people. I just crop the photos. You get closer into the what you wanted to,
The subject.
and it's just more cleaner and clearer, right?
Yes.
So when Susan, yeah, this exercise I do usually when people go, I mean, professional photographer, travel photographer, they would do a big view, like a large panoramic view, the same way when you look at a movie, you have a big view, like where am I going? And then you have a closer view of people, so you want to have people, and then you have like a close-up, right? So usually there's 3 different kind of views, and then you make sure that your book is exciting. So there's different point of view, different composition. So the book is always like, you always want to turn the page, right? So doing little exercises, really working on the composition and what's important. What's important is in this scene. And then sometimes drawing makes it easier to understand. But I want to make sure that people don't just do duplicate postcards that they have seen. So they take the same picture they've seen in the postcard. And
yeah.
I want to say, what makes your trip unique? What did you see that only you could see? And then I'm looking for these details. What did they bought at the store? What was your special meal? What was special about that trip for you, right? So
That's a great point. So when I was at the Grand Canyon this winter, and I had mentioned this before, I think on our last podcast, but I had worked there a long time ago. At one of the, I was a park ranger there, yeah, and a lot of it was quite different. And one of the things I was not expecting this time is we came up on the eastern edge. My kids had never been to the Grand Canyon, so their introduction was at Desert View, which is on the eastern edge of the canyon of the park part, and that's where actually I was stationed. And we came in, and it was so crowded, and we weren't really expecting that. It was Christmas time. There were a lot of people, but one of the things that struck me and them at the same time was at Desert View. There is one spot where the rock kind of comes out a little bit, and they have a railing around. And every single person was lined up in a line to take a picture
Yep.
at the edge of that railing, right? And it was so I mean, the railing was there before when I remember when I used to work there, but there were never really lines for people to do that. So I've trained my kids very well. They're like, Mom, I'm not waiting in a line to take a picture. And we're all like, this is just so weird. And now I think about what you're saying is when you mentioned the postcard, I think another equivalent is a lot of times people go places now because they've seen a photo on Instagram or on Facebook and they're like, I want to go that spot, and they try and recreate it. And that's fine. And it might be a beautiful photo. But it's not your photo.
Right.
Right? So, like, we took pictures sort of on the side of that railing because I wasn't gonna wait in that line. But better pictures from that spot are when we went over a little ways and stood to the side where we could see everybody over here, but then you look out this way and it's just gorgeous. There's nobody there. It's peaceful. It's different. And those are our pictures. Now I took a picture of the people in the line because I thought it was amusing and it was actually part of our trip. And that may make it in the book. It's going to be like a little one because it's part of the memory of their first introduction to a place that means a lot to me. But I wouldn't use the photo. Well, we didn't take the photo, but if I had, I wouldn't use the photo of us at that railing. It wouldn't mean anything.
Right.
So it's a really, really good point, is to really think about which are the photos that have meaning.
Right.
And focus on those.
And when you go to large areas like that, I mean, I can say, you know, as I reflect back on some of my trips, and you're talking about the railing, there's a spot in Yellowstone that an artist drew the famous painting of the waterfall in you know, in the canyon for Yellowstone. It's one of the representative iconic you know, posters of Yellowstone. So, you know, you park your car and you walk up to that spot and there's just tourists everywhere and everybody's trying to mimic that poster photo, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to Greece and I can't remember which island is it Santorini with the blue roofs?
Yeah.
The white, yeah. So you know, you're trying to find the iconic photo where you can see the coastline with all the white buildings with the blue roofs, you know? So when you mention that, yeah, there are these, you know, typical photos that you want to maybe seek on your trip so that you can say, yes, I was there, right? This is my version of that iconic spot.
Well, there's a reason why the spot is iconic, because it has a very strong shape, it's very memorable, it's beautiful. But sometimes it's hard to take a picture sometimes, like the Grand Canyon, it's very hard to photograph, right?
Yes, it is.
Even for photographers, it's very hard because the way it's built, right? So you have to find different ways to say the same thing.
That actually, you know, Susan, that might be a good episode another time, is more photo taking tips. Like what do you take and how do you take it? You know, if you're at a place where if you're drawn, so there's a couple things there, because if you're drawn to a place because you've seen that photo on a postcard or on Instagram or whatever, that is an important part of your story. It's why you're there. But there's a lot more you could do. Yeah.
I will tell you what, you need to get up early.
Yes. Very early.
6? Oh yeah, the first person. I mean, in all those famous like places, people line up the same way, but maybe it's only photographer and they have a tripod and they have their specific space and don't touch my thing. This is me.
Yeah. The early is the thing. Well, we saw the Little Mermaid in Stockholm. No, maybe it's in Copenhagen. And I will often on vacation go out for a run early while the rest of my family is still sleeping or waking up. And I ran by the Little Mermaid. And I purposefully, I knew where it was. I'd never seen it. So I made that part of my route and there was nobody there. It was just me. And it was so spectacular. It was beautiful. It was amazing. But of course, everybody else wanted to see it too in the family. So later on in the day when we're going about our thing, we go back and it was so packed. You could barely even get close.
A clear view.
A clear view, yeah.
Allison, same thing in Chicago, right? The beans.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I was there and I got up at 6. It was like, I had to do this. And then I got my picture. I was the only one under. I asked someone, I gave my camera to someone.
Yeah.
And then after in return, I gave my camera I took a picture of them. But it was like, you have to get up insanely early. Yeah. And then you have to come back and take a nap when it's 12, like between 11 and 4, where the sun is high up. Because the picture you're going to take then, full sun overhead, it's going to be really harsh and not that great. And everybody has their shadow, their hat, and you cannot see the eye. It brings you different problems. So best thing early in the morning or golden hours between 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's where you get the most beautiful pictures because of the light. Right.
The bean is a great example, actually. So the bean, for anybody who's listening who hasn't been to Chicago, is actually, it's called Cloudgate. It's not called the bean, but we all call it the
That's
bean
right.
because it looks
Yeah.
like a bean. And it's this big round metal structure that reflects everything around it. So it's reflecting all of the tall buildings, and then you can walk under it and you can see your reflection. So it's really, I mean, we all made fun of it when it was built initially because it had all these seams on it and it was really ugly. But now it's really amazing. I take every guest that comes to Chicago
Of course.
to the bean. So to find it at a spot where there at a time when there's nobody there is very difficult. I'm actually surprised you were able to do that at 6. I would think you'd have to be there a little bit earlier even. Because it's everybody goes there and it's huge. And actually when there's a lot of people around, it's actually quite interesting. It's a totally different photo, but is quite interesting because the reflections are incredible.
They
Incredible.
had a videographer and he was taking pictures and they had a drone and maybe on YouTube I'll find it, and then they were having this concert. It was fabulous. It was great
Yeah.
because there's music on top of it.
Yeah, they do concerts there all summer. It's
Mhm.
great. Anyway, we digress. So
Let's go back.
let's go back to the books.
Mm-hmm. So so selecting the photo first is a very different thing than designing the book. And designing the book, I believe, like if you have someone that's never made a book before, I would say try to do something that is not so big or complicated. Do something small and play with the software. So usually we'll go online and there's maybe, I don't know, 15 different type of company that would make photo books. And I would say first look at what you like the best. And then they're all a little bit slightly different.
Mm.
And then you play and you try out without feeling like, oh, I must do this thing for next week. I mean, actually, if you have a deadline, you'll get it done, right? If you don't have a deadline, you will try and never finish it, right? So, but I would say books have a learning curve, and depending of which company you go with, sometimes they are simple, sometimes they are complicated. So play around with different ones.
And they're all different prices too, so you have to look at that. So when we're looking at developing the book, how do you look at telling somebody to use more white space or captions or as they're developing the book? What are some of your guidelines about that?
So if you want to get the book done, you want to make it simple enough so you don't get into so overthinking it. And then some people say, well, I'm not going to put caption text too long, right? So you have to decide. But
done can be better than perfect. So
I would, yes. So there is that camp, and there is the camp of I want to do everything perfect. And then yes, put captions. But one thing you might want to do is to do the caption on a Word document or on Google Doc separately from the book, because you always have a typo that you missed, right? So
always.
they'll check, because if you have to redo a book, because everybody see that typo. So I think captions are great to add information, like you go to Italy and what's the difference between this church or this church, or maybe you go to 5 different cities. I think at least a place, a date is essential. And some people write very freely and they're happy to write. Let them write as many paragraphs, as much as they want. But if someone is a little bit more stressed about writing, I would say don't sweat it, but at least have a title, maybe a paragraph at the beginning, and dates. And then sometimes you have to think about, I'm doing this book for myself, but maybe for my kids or grandkids, maybe you want to put names that are obvious to you, but for somebody else, they might need to have a name, right?
Yeah, that's really important. I can tell you that I made a faux pas, a mistake, when I was creating the book in Italy, because I have one group shot of my Italian side of my family, and that totally should have been captioned, so left to right, and describe everybody, and I did not do that, so that was bad on me.
That's
part of it is
a great thing about a book is you could reprint it, right?
Yes.
If you make a mistake, you keep the book, you give the book to somebody else, and then because it's hard to have it exactly perfect. It's very hard, right?
You can also put a little note card.
Yeah, I can
too.
put something in there.
Yeah, I mean, we do that because you also you don't necessarily know what you're going to forget. So I have found too that I encourage people to put captions on, especially with a group shot. You know, if it's just your immediate family, you don't have to write, or like the three of us, or I don't have to write a caption that says Susan, Allison, Isabel. But like I've done some books where people have gone on a group trip with, sometimes they don't know the people beforehand. And we've said, you know, they want to put a picture of the group in there because that was part of the experience. And I will always suggest let's label them left to right, because, and they're like, oh well, I don't need to know that. I don't, you know, I'm not going to forget. So well, yeah, you probably are. You're gonna forget.
Yeah.
And if you're giving this book to anybody else, they're gonna want to know, unless you
Definitely
truly
a little
don't
bit
care.
more work. It's definitely a little bit more work,
Yeah.
but it's oh, something.
And the spell check, so important.
Spell check is super
So
important.
important.
You're ready, and then you do not press because you're so happy you've done it. You wait another day, and then you have, or maybe somebody else needs to check because I don't know why, but this happens, right?
Every
So,
time.
Yeah, always take a pause before you hit purchase on those books. You know, wait, you know, several days, not even just a day, because with a fresh view, some of your issues could be revealed to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the mistake is to put the same photo twice.
Oh, yeah. Some
Uh-huh.
programs keep track. It depends on what program you use if you're adding them to the book. So,
Yeah.
one program I use, it's not cheap. It's Smart Albums, and it puts all your photos like in a tray at the bottom,
Mhm.
and then as you add them to the pages,
They
they get
different.
removed. Yeah. And it will warn you if you use the same one. Like you can configure the
Oh, you get a
settings.
warning. That's
Yeah. And then of course they all leave the tray. So when you're done adding all your photos, they're, you know, you've placed them on all your pages that you want. So depending on the book, I don't know, builder tool that you use, you might have the option to catch, you know, the duplicate issue that
Yes.
you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
You also were mentioning the white space. So,
Yes.
I like white space, but it doesn't need to be boring either, right? So you always want to balance. So sometimes, I mean, you have to decide if you want space between images, because sometimes when images are next to each other, it makes it something weird, you know, because
Right.
you
It's hard to
each
define.
other.
Yeah.
So I would say if you knew are making a book, do simple books with maybe one image per page. The more images in the page, the more complicated and complex it was going to get, right? So you want to stay, you want to do the first book you're doing, try to make it as easy as you can, right? And then you will get better, and then you understand the software, and then it will be just much easier and easier to do, I feel.
There's definitely a psychology to it. I've had people where, you know, we're making a book and they want to put in all the photos. They're like, I have all these photos, I want them all in there, but the layout gets so busy. And so again, we'll do, and I suggest people, you do this when you're making it on your own too, is make a few layouts and take a look at it. And do you like that page that has 9 photos on it? But or do you want to compare that to a page that has 1 or 2, because you lose the significance of the photo the more photos are on a page.
Right.
Yeah,
But I
they
think
get
when
really
you're,
small.
yeah, they get really small, but they lose significance, I think, unless it's something that is a sequence. You know, it's the exact same subject showing it in slightly different ways. But I think there is a psychology that also comes into play with your sort of your value of the book, because you're paying for X number of pages. I think every printer, you get, you know, a certain number of pages are included in the book, and then each page is X. So you don't want to pay for 100 pages, but you'll pay for 50. So you put twice as many photos on the 50 page,
Right.
the 100. And I think that's hard. That's hard to get around. I
Right.
think.
So for that, I try to find each picture that you have, you kind of want to have to be packed with meaning, right? So you want to put as much as in a photo, and then you do this before, rather than putting too many photos to make a page, right? So the good thing with the book is you could try, you know, you don't like this, so you try another one. So you could always edit, right?
Yeah. And one of the things too to remember, if you're putting a photo, just one photo on a page, and it's a larger book, say it's a 12 by 12, you have to be very careful about that quality of the photo. So if they're working with you and you've already gone through and checked that, you're good. But definitely pay attention. Most printing companies will give you a warning
Yeah,
if
a little
the
triangle
photo is
warning or
not
something.
of significant quality.
Yeah.
And you need to pay attention to that. You don't want to ignore it, because you don't want to put a photo that you think you love huge on a page and then have it come out kind of pixelated and
Yep.
fuzzy.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Especially for the cover. When I did my book for my Italy trip, there was I woke up early, and the side of the ship that I was on, I could see the sunrise, and it was on the water and it was beautiful. And we were sailing past a teeny tiny little island toward the boot, and this little island had erupted. There was a volcano on it, and I could see the smoke and everything, and I knew exactly what was happening, even though I didn't have the news about it until much later. And so that is the cover of my book to Italy, is this huge sunrise shot with this little island with the volcanic activity on it. It was just fabulous. But I had to upscale that image, because even though I took that with my iPhone, the book printing company gave me an alert that my file was not high enough quality. There weren't enough pixels. The resolution was not there. So I had
So
to upscale.
hopefully, when you look at all your image, you kind of check the size before putting that in the book, because then you're disappointed when you think you have a great image.
Yep.
And that image, because somebody texted to you or somebody, it's in email, you never really realize it. So you want to look at all this before you upload everything. That's good, Alison.
That's
Those are
part
the
of your
technical
selection
things
process, I guess. Yeah.
can just like happen. It always was finding one pictures and you get that little thing. So
Yeah.
one strip will be you just reduce it in size, and then it's one small photo part of a bigger inner page. And then
Sometimes, yeah. So we'll usually either make it smaller on the page, or if they really want to use that photo, sometimes they have another photo that is quite similar. So maybe this is the one that somebody in your group texted to you, but it turns out you took a similar one and the quality of yours is better. So sometimes you can just swap it out as well. But it's really important to pay attention to those warnings, because you spend all this time and energy and expense on this beautiful book, and then you get it back and you look at it and
And the image is not the
yeah,
best. Yeah.
it's not what you wanted. Now, I have put photos in books, both for myself and for others, that are not high quality, that are like both in terms of pixels and printability, and or not high quality in terms of composition. But that usually happens because there's a very specific meaning behind that photo, and the photo itself being bad quality is actually part of the story, or bad composition. Like something that this happens a lot when I'm working with clients whose children got the camera or got the phone, and they take a picture and the picture is blurry because they're running around or it's somebody's foot. And that's not a photo that normally you would choose to put in a book. But the story behind it is your 3-year-old, got the phone, and this is what they saw. You're looking at this, like you're looking at, say, the Grand Canyon, and he's looking at his foot. So by quality, it doesn't always mean like what a photographer would consider high quality. Quality means the importance to you, which brings us right back to the beginning, of course, in selecting the photos. But it is interesting, because I have had people. I get a lot of people ask me to make books who have been traveling, and one of the reasons they're drawn to me is because maybe I've been there, or they've heard me talk about the birds or something like that. So I have an affinity for the subject matter. But then they'll get discouraged because their photos aren't as good. And I said, that's not the point. It's absolutely not the point at all. These are your photos. This is part of your story. And
so, but wait,
pick that.
When people they don't like their photos because they look at the overall and they're not happy, they're not satisfied. And a lot of people are like that. But you, with your eye, you can always find, I always find something,
Yeah.
people are disappointed.
Sometimes
but
you just need to crop it a little bit.
I crop it, I
Yeah.
change it, I do this, and you straighten up everything. And
Yeah.
then because you take less pictures maybe, and then you get the book back to them and say, I took those pictures, and they cannot recognize it because you've gone through it, and then you did a lot of cropping, you change, you put pictures next to each other, they have new meaning. It's kind of fun to actually take all of the images, like I could see the potential, and you make something like they had no idea, and it was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you bring
much
it to life.
easier. Yeah, it's much easier though once the selections are done, because you
Right.
don't want to do that to 100 photos.
No,
You want to do
you have to find the ones that you can crop down. You develop an eye for that. Even when I'm scanning people's photos and I go through the cropping process and my color editing or whatever, I have to restrain myself because I want to make every single picture perfect. And it's like, no, it's not your catalog. Just crop it the way it is. You don't have to do any extra cropping, like to highlight the subject or anything. Give them what is in the picture. Yeah. Give them what's.
And that can always be done later.
Yes.
Yes,
The
it would be like-
additional
yes.
cropping can be done later. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, we see so many photos and, sometimes you just want to get your hands in there and make everything beautiful,
Right.
I do that
don't
when I
think
get
it's
birth
necessarily
photos.
beautiful. What you want to do is make the picture easy to read.
Yes.
So it's not centered. It's so you allow somebody else to view it and appreciate. So you
Yeah.
just kind of elevate the pictures. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. How fun.
We've talked about some of them, but what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make when they are going through the bookmaking process?
The first thing is they get overwhelmed and they don't know. They just feel like it's going to be too hard. But I think if you break it down, and then you need to know what to look for. So I have the eye, and I know there are certain photos are going to be much easier, like clean background, bright colors. I'm looking for this, but they are not. They are not looking for that, right? So there is a little bit of education, and say, well, this type of image will work better, or if you take picture in this kind of light, it would look better. Then, so once I teach all of that, right? Once they get that, then it's much easier for them to delete the photos that don't work, and then the photos that they know will print well.
So you help teach them to look for certain characteristics.
Yes.
Yes.
But also, this way, the next time they're going to take a picture, they're going to say, oh, I'm going to take the picture under the porch, because that always works, because there's not harsh shadows, we look good. And then they're going to, this is going to be the spot where they're going to take the next picture. So I really educate people. So when they take their next picture on the next trip, they're going to know what to do. Don't take your picture at noon, for example.
Yeah.
It's not going to work so well. I mean, you could work with it, but the fact I teach people how to review their photos and learn from their mistakes, right? Because in a photo, people blink, there's nothing you could do. But where you take the photo, how far you take the photo, different kind of photos, that's really important, because they're going to take photos for the rest of their lives, right? So when I work with people, I teach them how to work the computer, how to see, and actually after that, they're doing it. So it's support and structure after that. So this is usually what I do. I spend more time doing this than actually the photo books, right? In what I do.
Well, I feel like once you get the selection, and all of this is part of the selection, the book is quite easy. It's the selection that's
yes. You just put photos in a box, right?
Yeah.
But then, I mean, of course, the design is not just, you don't do this in 5 minutes. The design is really important, and some photos you want large, some photos you want small, but I like to have a nice rhythm and a nice flow. So when you look at the slideshow, if there's a picture that doesn't work, I'll take it out, but I make sure that you have every page need to work on their own. the page next to work with the next page, and that spread next to work with the next spread. So you have a nice flow and rhythm. It's a bit like music, and in cinema, you make sure that this goes first, then maybe you change the order a little bit. But as long as you have a strong photo in the middle, in the front, nice middle, and a good photo at the end, you're kind of done, right? Because you really have to think about how somebody else will perceive the photos. You want that book to be read many, many times, and then to be enjoyed again and again.
So some of the additional mistakes that we've already talked about is make sure you're looking at the full four corners of the photo. And
in the photos, and
when you're making your selection, right, is make sure there's no extra noise. Like in the photo behind me, make sure there's not somebody standing on one of those rocks. Oh, that would be a whole different issue. But so make sure that there's no distraction in the photo, and check the shadows, and
distraction could be a very bright light that your eye is going to go to. It could be some type, on a poster or something on the back. It could be a tourist. It could be a piece of something, a garbage can. Oh my God, so many garbage cans.
Oh, the garbage cans, yes. The garbage cans. That's I mean, I still take pictures where I'm like, oh, I wish I had just moved a couple inches this way, because because we don't notice. Those are some things that we don't even notice anymore. They're everywhere, and we don't even see them. So we take the picture. And actually, that reminds me of something else. You're right about signs. Make sure there's nothing taking, like in your photo, signs and things can really take away. You may not have really noticed what they said, but there's some pretty funny pictures out there where you take a look, you get home and you look at your photo and you see that sign in the corner. You're like, oh, I don't want that anywhere. And then you crop it out, but it doesn't matter if you take it properly the first time.
Yeah. Signs are really good. I love sign.
Yes.
If this is a beautiful sign of the city you visited.
Oh, yes.
Always look for those, right?
Yes. I take those every single time.
Yeah.
Just signs.
Yep.
City signs.
Entrance of the
park.
Entrance of the park.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking more about, say you're taking a photo by some buildings and there's a big
deli or something.
Deli, or something that says something like that somebody had graffitied over that you might not agree with what they're saying is
right
in your background. That's more stuff. Yeah, I take pictures of signs everywhere. I actually do it for two reasons. One, sometimes I like them in the book. So if it's a national park sign, or, here's the entrance to something. But the other reason I take them is actually to give me a visual split of my photos, so that I know, okay, especially in nature. Yeah, especially in nature, where you may or may not remember exactly where something is. If you have a sign of the park and then you have 5 photos and then you have another sign somewhere else, then you don't have to think about it. You're like, okay, all of these are in this spot.
It makes a great introduction to a series of photos. Like you're there, then you start with that, and then you go somewhere else. I call them like a transition photos, right? In a travel books. Or you take a plane and then you put a photo with them on the plane. So a photo, sometimes photos, they on itself, they're not great, but because they could be serving as transition or introduction, I always look for these. So
or if you're going to take like a plane ride or a helicopter ride, is to take a picture before you get into the helicopter, right? So that you can remember what it was that you toured with, things like that.
Yeah.
And it's
trailhead signs. Yeah.
Showing the expectation. Oh, we're so excited because we're going somewhere.
Yes.
So that gives reason to your book, right?
Yep.
And also like people climbing up the stairs, going down, because when you travel, you do lots of things, right? So I always look at direction. We're going that way, and then we're going that way, and then we're doing this up and down. All this gives dynamism to the book.
Sometimes I like to take, when I'm in a foreign country, take pictures of fronts of the different stores and shops. Many areas in Europe have huge candy stores. I don't know what it is about candy. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
But giant wine barrels of candy, and that just blows my mind. Like when I was in Greece and some other areas, or in Italy. And so I just want to take pictures of all the colorful candy, or when I was in Sicily and you walk, or in Venice, and you're walking down the tiny little alleyways. So it was funny. My nephew, before I left, said, "Don't walk down tiny little alleyways at night." And here I was with my girlfriends in Venice, and only a pigeon was walking down the aisle with us, in the middle of the night, and there was these tiny little walkways. And so I just had to take that picture and share it with him, because it was just kind of ironic. He said, "Don't do that," and that's the one thing that we were doing, was walking around the middle of the night, in these tiny little alleyways. But it was so fun, and they have so decorative fronts of the stores. So that really is, I like to capture the essence of where I'm at, and the culture.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you have tips on, sort of changing subject a little bit, but the cover? Do you have tips on what to put on the cover? There's so many different ways to handle covers.
Is always a nerve-wracking.
Mhm.
But when I look at the photos, I could see, and getting used to, I could see potential covers. So I would maybe put some aside, right? And I usually, you want to have a title. So I like to have a nice, the same way you would in the magazines, right? You would leave space on top where you could just put title. I like to do this way rather than putting a band of color and put it on it. So I would look for lots of sky, or some images where I could put the title on it. Usually I put nature or something organic, so it's easier to put some type over it, because every time you have a very strong vertical or even diagonal or horizontal, you're gonna have type, and it might create tension. So I like to take nature pictures.
Rather than having a person on the cover, is what you're saying.
Oh, no, I like people on the
Oh,
cover.
okay.
If I usually we want as many people everywhere. I don't like just landscape, just landscape, like as a spread. To me, it's kind of like,
I love landscape shreds.
it depends. It really depends. I want some kind of flex,
Yes.
right? It
Yeah.
depends. But
But I think what you're saying is to make sure there's a spot, usually on the top, that's not busy in the photo, so that if you lay type over it, it's not fighting. You can read it easily. It's
Yeah.
not distracting. So,
Yeah.
if you have a skyscraper with windows and you try and put type over that, it's going to be very hard to read.
Right,
Versus
so you want
sky.
a nice empty area where type would work nicely. Or you would take a photo where everything in the photo works. You don't have anything objectionable, that the photo is really great at itself, and then you put the type on top. So it's two different things, right? And then we have to come up with a good title. But the spine is important, and it's because if you have a collection of books, it's nice to have the spine on the side to kind of say what it is, because if not, it just doesn't really work, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the spine. The spine.
So if the first photo can be makes you want to open the book, that's successful. I mean, it doesn't have to be a person, it could be something that would present the book, beautiful flowers, anything you want, because that photo is hard to choose, very hard to choose.
Yeah. Do you have any, so for people that are doing this themselves, do you have any favorite printers or software that you would suggest?
I'm going to tell you something funny, but any printer is fine, because if you have a great selection of photos, you're going to be happy with no matter. It could be printed on toilet paper. This book is going to be great, right?
It's not going to last very long. It'll be great the first time you look at it.
I mean, I want to say newsprint. If it's printed in newsprint, if your photos are great in itself and you have strong images, no matter where they will be printed. So you want to match whatever your content to the printer. It needs to reflect your personality. People like everything nice and simple, or they like busy and then very heavy paper. It really depends how you live. If you like texture. So I don't like to. I don't feel like there's a best place to do it. And I would hate to say go there, because it's really personal. But you
Well,
have to
plus
love
the
the
software is different for the different companies sometimes. So you wanna
Yes,
see if you can work easily with the software that they provide you.
exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, what does this work out? You expect to work on the right side, but everything on the left, then you have to understand. So lots of people are very frustrated, and sometimes I'm pulling my hair. What? Because you expect this company to work with the previous company you worked for, right? So there is a learning curve, and sometimes things don't seem to make sense, but you have to understand like they work like this, and then you will make mistakes or figure it out, and then we'll be fine. But
I actually think it's worth taking a few minutes before starting the book to look at several different, all the printers have their own software you can use too. And if you're doing it yourself, I suggest generally you just use that. But it would be helpful to look at a few of the different printers that you're thinking of first, take a look at the software and see which one seems easy for you to use. And then if you like the quality of that first book, you like how it came out, just stick with that printer because it'll save you time. You'll already know how to use it.
Yes,
do a test
absolutely.
print. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And if you stick with the same company, you'll get emails about their discounts and sales and
Yeah.
things, and that'll be good too.
The discounts are great if you have your book ready, you wait a little bit, then you have your discount and you get 2 books.
A lot of times, actually, that's a really good point because a lot of times I will see these posts and whatever on various groups that I belong to, and it says, "Oh, there's this great sale at such and such," So I need to hurry up and make my book, which is a big mistake.
Yeah.
So maybe what you do is you see that sale. The sales will always come back around, but you use that as your impetus. Okay, I got to get this book done, but not rush through it. And if you miss that sale, now your book is ready for when the next sale comes, and it will be a better book than trying to get it in on the 3 days
Sale.
that you have of free pages when you haven't started the book itself.
Because they don't give you much time. It's 24, 48-hour sale, and you have a weekend to do it. Yeah, that's a lot.
There's always another sale.
Yeah, there's always another sale. Absolutely.
So let's finish up with, if you had just, what is your, and it can be something we've already talked about, but what is your one top tip for somebody that wants to make a book of a special event, a travel, their family, whatever it is? Do you have like one or two top, the most important things that you would tell them?
Well, most family make books. They want to make books after, kids are 2, 3. They like to do baby book. Then they like to do annual review books, right? I don't do this kind of book anymore. My kids are out of the house, But usually this is where people feel like, I am a good mom. I'm going to do book a year. And I'm going to say, this is really hard. This is really hard to put on you. Your mom didn't do that. Or maybe I see so many books, old photo collection, and there is always books that I was started. And this was printed photos. So I feel like, relax, don't feel terrible because you cannot do, you're behind 2 years. It's normal. Life is busy and you're doing all these wonderful things. So you could hire someone to do it for you. I've done plenty of books for people. It's hard if you don't select your photo as the year goes by.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the way to do it, is start selecting your favorites.
Do not expect that after you're done with your photo, magically it will be done. Right? You need to put a little bit of work into it regularly, every time you do a bunch of photos or after each vacations, right? So you want to take it easy and then regularly review the photos. So usually it's impossible to delete all the bad photos, What's easy is to delete the terrible photos, the one that don't work, heart or put a star or flag, whatever system you are in. The photos that makes you happy. In between, if you never have time to do anything, you let go. But you have a certain number of photos every year. Maybe you could decide, I want 1 photo a day, like 300 photos, 365 photos. I want 100 photos, 10 or maybe 10 a month. But give yourself some kind of like number that you could refer to, and then you feel good about that. And then if the book gets done, great, right?
You can create an album on your phone at the beginning.
Yep.
So always create
Yeah.
always create albums, always create, and then the book will be so much easier.
Yeah.
Every
Yep.
month you could do, and then there are a few companies that helps you to do this, and they create very, very simple books. One photo, I always go to one photo a page, right? They are chat books. And if you don't want to do a photo books, don't feel bad. You're still a great mom, a great dad. But you could, to help you a little bit, you could do books or prints, like personality prints is one, chat books is one, Moosh is another one, and recently is one, and they work by subscription, right? So every year is divided in months, and every month you do a book. So you do a little bit at a time. I feel like this would be the best advice. And if I was a mom at that age, that's what I would do with my kids. So I don't get upset at the end of the year that I have to review all my photos and then do this. Or do a calendar. Do something smaller rather than that want to do a book that tells you everything about you, your year. And also, it's okay to forget, and it's okay to not document every single thing of your life, because you cannot manage your life and the documenting of your life, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's so much harder now because we take so many photos. We take photos of everything. So you have to choose between, thousands instead of, 50 years ago,
Right.
you might have one, right?
it's
It's just much harder.
so big. It's your life, and then you have to have a system. And so what I usually say is, I have some kind of criteria. This kind of photo, I need one. And for example, like soccer match, I want to see the ball. And anytime there's a game, I want to see the ball. If not, I'm lost. It's too far, and it's not even worth taking the pictures, right? Because you're too far. So there's certain kind, you want to make sure you photograph in the best condition of things that are gonna be turning good in photos. But if you never review the photo, you cannot discover this, right?
Right.
So in the process, you discover what works, what doesn't work, and then for next year, you say, well, you know what? I can't do it all. I'm gonna choose what I want to document. And focus on portraits, focus on things like close-up, things like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Those are great tips.
Yeah. I think that heart is, and we've talked about this before, but that heart is or your whatever you're using, the equivalent. So in Apple Photos, it's a heart to show your favorite if you're using something else, but you do it a different way. But I think that's literally the most powerful organizing technique of anything that we do, because it's so simple. And in the end, you're saying, this is my favorite photo. So I don't have to go back.
Album.
Exactly.
And you just show your favorite to whoever is around, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Instead of doing the death scroll.
You call it the death scroll.
The death scroll. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what?
But this-
On your phone, if you're on the iPhone, you can go and you just press on the flower, the app. You just press, and then you'll just see your favorite. Okay, so let me see.
Oh, a hard press. Oh, I
You
don't think I knew that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you say,
Hold on.
you just see your favorite. So just press on it,
Oh,
and
look
then
at that.
and then you just go to your favorite
Yeah.
directly.
I didn't even know that existed.
I didn't either.
Be careful. You don't press it too long, though, because then they all start to jiggle and you'll end up deleting all of your.
You don't want to do that. You just go to favorite.
Yeah. So like that, when you press and hold, yeah.
Oh, wow, look at that.
You get
Look at that.
there.
My favorites, the one at the top, are birds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and my dog.
Right. So
Is he Sorry, kids.
Dogs. Oh, whoops. Yeah, it was this dog.
What a great tip. I didn't know that was there. See, this is why we do this podcast, right? Is because
something new.
every single time we
oh
learn
my God!
something.
Every time there's a new update, there's something new,
I know.
and then you learn about it. Oh, that's so butterfly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, that's
okay,
so funny.
wonderful. Okay,
I hearted a few images and that one came up. Oh, here's another
Yep.
one.
Well, they'll rotate too. The favorites will rotate across the top.
Here's mine.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. This was so great. I mean,
Yeah.
we learn something every time.
Yeah.
And I think our listeners will definitely be thinking about their photos a little bit differently after listening to this episode. And hopefully next time they sit down to do a book, they'll have some concrete tips that they can use.
Absolutely.
Let's make it easier.
Favorite slideshow.
Yeah.
book.
Perfect.
Yeah. The
And
slideshow
then after
option
the
is
book,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
after the
And
book,
actually-
the next thing is
Yeah.
frames. The frames.
Frames. That's a different topic. One last thing I was going to say about the slideshow, I was thinking about this when you said it, is when you start with that slideshow and it's too big, you have too many, one of the things you can do is actually save it as a slideshow and add that to the back of the book with a QR code, or just save it for another time.
I never done this, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, I add QR codes to all of the books I do now, especially if there's video. If there's no video involved, then we don't always. But, you know, people take so many videos on their phone. So we add a QR code at the back that links to a slideshow that usually has the videos. And that can be a little bit less formal. You can add more stuff in there because that really is mostly for you.
Yeah.
But it's a way, it also makes people feel a little bit better about cutting out photos, right? They feel guilty about not using all the photos that they took or whatever, but they feel better when they know that they are still included some way at the end. So that's actually
I like that.
a quite easy way to do it.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Great tip.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Isabelle.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Good. Oops. Oh, there she goes.
Oh.
She's ready to go. Nope, there's she's back.
I was saying goodbye.
Thank you. We appreciate you. All right.
Bye.
Oh.
Oh, that was fun. Okay, so that tip right at the very end there with the hard press,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was there. I mean, that's super handy. And it's not just favorites, there's a few options there.
Uh-huh.
But the key is to hard press and then let go, because otherwise all your apps will start to jiggle.
Yeah.
But you can edit your home screen. You can see 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Favorites, most recent.
Plus, you can also change how, the icon shows up, and,
Yep.
and yeah. So
That's so interesting. Okay,
I
so there you go.
learned something new.
I
Yeah.
learned a lot of new things. Her slideshow tip I thought was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
To do a slideshow first, and obviously to look at things on the big screen is one of the most important things you can do before putting.
Yeah.
photo in a
Look at
book.
the
So you
detail in
really
every.
see it.
Yeah. Look at
Yeah.
the detail in each image before you use it, because, like you said, it may just need a simple crop to get rid of something that's distracting in your photo or whatever, and you're not going to see that on your phone necessarily. So many people
Exactly.
try to do everything on their phone. I just never could figure out.
Yeah.
That's not me. I have to work on a large screen.
I've had people ask me, do you know of any apps where I can just make a book right from my phone?
Ugh.
And there are many, but I never recommend them because you just can't see what looks good on your phone isn't necessarily going to
No,
look good.
you're going to take a
screen.
chance, especially if it's not a good quality image. You're not going to notice it on your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what another wonderful interview. I'm so glad she, could join us. And
Yeah.
yeah.
In the middle of a snowstorm too,
Yes.
back east. So we're happy that she was able to. So that was great. And as always, we will put Isabelle's contact information on our resources page. So if you want to reach out to her, you know where to find her.
And we'll try and list some of those, because she rattled off a few chat books and some other places.
We'll list those on the page.
Yeah, we'll list those
Yeah.
as resources as well, like we always do.
Like we always do.
Thank you for listening. And, if there's any questions that you have for us, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you, what works, what doesn't work. And maybe that will be a subject of a future podcast for us. So another one's in the can.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, Allison. Until next time. That's it for our show today. Remember, you can find this episode on all of your favorite podcast apps. Be sure to click follow so you can stay up to date with the latest in photo organizing. We'll catch you next month.